sides of the story. Both sides of the story. Is power. Classes in session, hour 106.
Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field frozen with snow.
I have a dream someday this is going to be a better day. Maybe you can't see my dream, you can't see my dream, but I'm sure someday you'll understand. We can all be better if we get it together. How sweet the words of peace sound to our ears. Only one thing wrong, my friends. Too many say these words, not enough for sincere. Oh, the words of freedom, liberty stands out in my soul and my mind. Tears come to my eyes, just as a blind. I have a dream that someday we'll all walk hand in hand. I have a dream that someday for our children this will be a better land. Now maybe you can't see my dream, and you can't see my dream, but I'm sure someday you'll understand. We can all be better if we get it together. Oh, my dream come true for me and for you. Dream, the impossible dream.
It's the International Decade of Healthy Aging, the International Decade of Ecosystem Restoration, the International Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, the decade of action for road safety, and 2022 marks the start of the UN International Decade of Indigenous Languages. It's the 17th day of the first month of 2022, the International Year of Sustainable Mountain Development, the International Year of Basic Sciences for Sustainable Development, the International Year of Glass, and the International Year of Artisanal Fisheries and Aquaculture. Americans are marking January as Human Trafficking Awareness Month and Mentorship Month. Here in Jamaica, the month of January is being observed as Earthquake Awareness Month and Soup Month, and it's Antonov Den or St. Anthony's Day in Bulgaria. It's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the USA. Hoy es lunes el 17 de enero 2022. Y les saludamos en cualquier parte del mundo que nos están escuchando en este momento. Estamos muy agradecidos por el don de la vida y el privilegio de servirles en otra edición de su programa, Both Sides of the Story, ambos lados de la historia. Nunca vamos a tomar su audiencia por sentado porque sabemos que ustedes tienen otras opciones. Y esta es la razón por la cual jamás olvidamos darle las gracias por elegir Both Sides of the Story, ambos lados de la historia, de lunes a viernes desde las 2 hasta las 5 de la tarde, aquí en Power 106 FM. La misión continua para educar, capacitar, iluminar y estimular el espíritu empresarial. Bienvenidos. C'est lundi le 17 janvier 2022 et nous vous saluons tous qui nous écoutez où que vous soyez dans le monde. Nous sommes reconnaissants du don de la vie ainsi que du privilège d'être à votre service par une nouvelle édition de votre programme Both Sides of the Story, le pour et le contre. Nous ne considérons pas votre fidélité comme l'un de soi parce que nous savons que vous avez l'embarras du choix. C'est pourquoi nous n'oublions jamais de vous remercier de choisir d'écouter Both Sides of the Story, le pour et le contre, du lundi au vendredi de 2h à 5h de l'après-midi sur notre antenne Power 106 FM. Nous continuons notre mission d'éduquer, d'habiliter, d'éclairer et d'encourager l'esprit d'entreprise. Bienvenue! All we're saying is it's Monday, the 17th of January, 2022, and we greet you well wherever in the world you are listening to us right now. We remain eternally grateful for the gift of life and the privilege to serve you on yet another edition of your program, Both Sides of the Story. We don't ever take your listenership for granted because we know you have choices. And that's why we never, ever forget to remember to say thanks for choosing to listen to Both Sides of the Story, Monday to Friday, 2 to 5, right here on Power 106 FM. The mission continues to educate, empower, enlighten, and encourage entrepreneurship. Welcome.
I have a dream someday. This is going to be a better day. Maybe you can't see my meaning. You can't see my dream.
I Have a Dream by Solomon Burke. And we thank Winston Thomas, popularly known as Tino, the late Winston Thomas, one of our regular listeners and callers to this program. Good afternoon to his widow and their children. Thank you so much for lending your husband and father to us over these many, many years, as he has contributed, as he contributed to the various talk shows across the circuit. But this particular recording, I was introduced to this particular recording by the late Winston Tino Thomas. I Have a Dream by Solomon Burke, and the poem we started with is entitled Dreams by Langston Hughes, the great American poet. On this, the 93rd, a couple days ago, we're 93 years and 2 days to the day that the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born. And so this is a holiday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the USA. And if you think this has nothing to do with Jamaica, think again, the history coming up in just a moment.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
2:15.
Jesus, oh Jesus, oh how I love to call your name.
Tune in to Power 106 FM for the longest running religious calling program on Jamaican radio, The Prayer Line. Join Pastor Errol Hay and his team as they offer spiritual guidance and intercession grounded in biblical doctrine. Hear powerful testimonies from Jamaica and around the world. The Prayer Line, a source of support and inspiration in these trying times. That's The Prayer Line on Power 106 FM, Sundays at 6:30 p.m. Join us.
You shall live and declare the works of the Lord. Amen. You shall be a living testimony here on the Lord's side.
Good afternoon to those of you listening to us on 106.1, 106.3, 106.5, 106.7, and 106.9. From Moran Point to Negril Point, from the Goat Islands to Galena Point. This is Power 106 FM, serving Jamaica and the diaspora. Hello to those tuned in via the Power 106 FM app, which you can download from the App Store or the Google Play Store, depending on the nature of your device. Downloading is free, listening is free, whenever, wherever. We acknowledge those who have dialed a designated number to listen to Power 106 FM from the United States and the United Kingdom. Those in the US who wish to dial a number to listen to Power 106 FM can call 631-359-8281, 631-359-8281. If you're in the United Kingdom and you wish to dial a number to listen to Power 106 FM, your number is 0330-606-0953, 0330-606-0953. We're streaming live video on the Dervan Malcolm Facebook page and affiliated pages. If you're not there yet, log on to Facebook. In the search box atop the page, type DERVAN MALCOLM, and you too will be able to not just hear, but see what's happening in the studios of Power 106 FM. If you don't have a Facebook account, no sweat. There's always YouTube. You don't need an account to log on to YouTube and watch this live stream of both sides of the story. All you need is a smartphone or a not so smartphone, a tablet computer, a laptop, a desktop, otherwise known as a PC, personal computer, any one of those. Then you'll need internet connection. Next, a browser like Bing, Safari, Google Chrome, any one of those. Open the browser. And if you're searching right now, you should see this video trending. If you're not seeing it, then in the YouTube search box, type DERVAN MALCOLM, and you too will be able to watch both sides of the story here on Power 106 FM, and that's the Dervan Malcolm YouTube channel. What's on your mind this afternoon? All the lines are open to you. 876-922-4112, 876-922-4113, 876-922-4114, and 876-922-4115. The text line is the same as the WhatsApp number, which means you can not only send us your text messages, but also your WhatsApp messages, your voice notes. In fact, you can call us via WhatsApp. That number is 876-365-3346, 876-365-3346. And we're all over social media: Facebook, Twitter, Skype, Instagram, LinkedIn, BBM, Yahoo Messenger, Tango, WhatsApp, Snapchat, TikTok, all the platforms you can think of. And we look forward to your full participation. As we said, it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the USA, born on the 15th of January, 1929, the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On the 18th of June, 1953, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. married Coretta Scott in Alabama. The marriage produced 4 children: Yolanda, Martin Luther King III, Dexter, and Bernice. On February 17, 1960, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was arrested in the Alabama bus boycott. On the 11th of June, 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was arrested in Florida for trying to integrate restaurants. On October 14, 1964, African-American civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his nonviolent resistance to racial prejudice in America. At 35 years of age, the Georgia-born minister was the youngest person ever to receive the award. March 21st, 1965, in the name of African-American voting rights, 3,200 civil rights demonstrators led by Martin Luther King Jr. began a historic march from Selma, Alabama, to the state capitol at Montgomery. On March 25, 1965, civil rights activists led by Martin Luther King Jr. successfully completed their 4-day, 50-mile march from Selma to the Capitol in Montgomery, Alabama. On June 20, 1965, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Nobel Peace Prize winner and United States civil rights leader, delivered the valedictory sermon for graduating students at the University of the West Indies. In his address to the 400 graduates and their families and friends, Dr. King told them, "If it falls to our luck to be a street sweeper, sweep the streets like Raphael painted pictures, like Michelangelo carved marble, like Shakespeare wrote poetry, and like Beethoven composed music. Sweep the streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth would have to pause and say, 'Here lived a great street sweeper.'" On the following day, Dr. King was presented with the keys to the city of Kingston at a civic reception at the National Stadium. On that occasion, he told the crowd that there were some in the USA who kept saying the civil rights movement was moving too fast. "They say we ought to slow up for a while, put on brakes. The only answer we can give that is that we are moving up a highway of freedom towards the city of equality, and we can't afford a stop now because our nation has a date with destiny. We must keep moving," Dr. King said. This was not Dr. King's only visit to Jamaica. In fact, he spent quite a lot of time here in Jamaica, writing and relaxing. He said he returned to America, where he shared with his fellow Americans his impression of Jamaica. This is what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said about Jamaica. "And so for those days, we traveled all over Jamaica. And over again, I was impressed by one thing. Here you have a people from many national backgrounds: Chinese, Indians, so-called Negroes." And every time we read those words, we have to make it very clear that Dr. King was not being disparaging of Negroes. What struck him was the disparity between people called Negroes in the United States of America and those who looked like Negroes who were living normally here in Jamaica. Hence the term that he used, so-called Negroes. So let's go back from the top. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., his impression of Jamaica after spending a lot of time relaxing and writing in Jamaica. He says, and so for those days we traveled all over Jamaica. And over again, I was impressed by one thing. Here you have people from many national backgrounds, Chinese, Indians, so-called Negroes, and you can just go down the line, Europeans, and people from many, many nations. Do you know they all live there? And they have a motto in Jamaica, out of many people, one people. Now, this says to me that, well, I'm not sure. I need to double check whether America, when America adopted the e pluribus unum, one out of many, one people, it means the same thing. But I'm wondering if it is that it wasn't translated or nobody paid too much attention to it, for Dr. King to have been struck by our motto here in Jamaica, out of many, one people, which is the same as the United States, the Latin e pluribus unum. Need to do some more checks on that one. But Dr. King went on to say, right, so he said, do you know they all live there? And they have a motto in Jamaica, out of many, one people. And they say, here in Jamaica, we're not Chinese, make it plain. We're not Japanese. We're not Indians. We're not Negroes. We're not Englishmen. We're not Canadians. But we are all one big family of Jamaicans. One day, here in America, I hope that we will see this and we will become one big family of Americans. Not white Americans, not black Americans, not Jewish or Gentile Americans, not Irish or Italian Americans, not Mexican Americans, not Puerto Rican Americans, but just Americans. One big family of Americans. One of his most famous quotes, those were the words of the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in whose honor a public holiday is being observed in the United States of America. One of his most famous quotes was, well, he delivered, as we said earlier on, the valedictory sermon for graduating students of the University of the West Indies in 1965. On the 31st of January, 1967, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was at the Jamaica Hilton Hotel in Miami Bay in St. Anne, finalizing the copy of a new book he was writing. On April 4, 1968, just after 6 p.m., Martin Luther King Jr. was fatally shot while standing on the balcony outside his second-story room at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. The civil rights leader was in Memphis to support a sanitation workers' strike and was on his way to dinner when a bullet struck him in the jaw and severed his spinal cord. King was pronounced dead after his arrival at a Memphis hospital. He was 39 years old. His assassination came just 24 hours after delivering his mountaintop speech. April 5, 1968, Prime Minister Shearer issued instructions to all government offices in Jamaica and abroad to fly the Jamaican flag at half-mast as a mark of sympathy in connection with the assassination of the U.S. civil rights leader, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He also asked the churches to pay tribute to King's work and for the repose of his soul and for world peace. April 9, 1968, murdered civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. was buried. March 10, 1969, James Earl Ray pleads guilty to the assassination of African-American civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. and was sentenced to 99 years in prison. He died in 1998. July 11, 1977, the Medal of Freedom was awarded posthumously to Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. in a White House ceremony. And so, this time of year, the third Monday in the month of January, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is his life and work celebrated around this time. It is almost time for us to go to the break and get ready for today's edition of Land Solutions, but we'll have much more for you in an hour's time. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
2:30.
The Jamaica Agricultural Commodities Regulatory Authority, JACRA, is now being onboarded to the Jamaica Single Window for Trade, J-SWIFT. Effective January 10, 2022, J-SWIFT will be facilitating online applications for all JACRA import permit releases. Traders and their agents will now be able to make online payments for JACRA cess. Benefits will include faster processing times and increased convenience, facilitating trade and doing business. No more walk-ins or waiting in lines. The JACRA Import Permit Release Service, effective January 10, 2022 on J-SWIFT.
Consumer Talks, educating and empowering consumers towards a more vigilant
Both sides
and
of the
confident
story. Good
consumer-friendly
afternoon.
Jamaica. Join us every second and last Tuesday of each month at 9:35 on Real Business.
Yes, Doctor.
Listen and learn about your rights and responsibilities.
Greetings to you too.
Learn how the CAC works to empower consumers in Jamaica.
No, we're
Consumer
off air, and
Talks,
we will
brought
be
to you
off
by the
air
Consumer
for another
Affairs
hour
Commission,
because
protecting
it's
your
a
rights,
Monday, so we
securing
have
our
Land
future.
Solutions from 2:30 to 3:30. So if you're able to, you could catch us in an hour. Sure. Take care. It's a Monday afternoon, just after 2:30, and that means time for Land Solutions. This is the program where all your land-related matters are dealt with. Anything at all to do with the sale or purchase of land. You've come to the right place. Here are the numbers to call: 876-922-4113-5. 876-922-4113-5. The text line for Land Solutions today, 876-881-5254. 876-881-5254. That's the same as the WhatsApp number for Land Solutions today. The website is landsolutionsja.com, landsolutionsja.com. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/landsolutionsja, facebook.com/landsolutionsja. The email address is gloria@landsolutionsja.com, gloria@landsolutionsja.com. The law firm Brown, Findley and Company is headquartered in Suite 39 of the Winchester Business Center, corner of Winchester Road and Hope Road in Halfway Tree, St. Andrew. They also have an office at the Jamaica National Building, upstairs, Shop 6 in Ocho Rios, St. Anne. In fact, a lawyer is on duty at that office every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you wish to get in touch with the offices of the law firm Brown, Findley and Company, you can call 876-908-1950, 876-908-1950, or 876-908-3518, 876-908-3518. In a moment, your host on Land Solutions today, attorney at law, Calicia Findley.
Good afternoon, Dervan, and good afternoon, listeners. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Land Solutions. As Dervan just said, I'll be your host for today, Talicia Finley. I have an interesting message to begin with, and as always, feel free to call in at any time with any questions or send your messages. Let me just jump right into this message because it raises quite a few pertinent issues. I live with my common law spouse for over 3 years now, and the relationship is very bad. I want him to leave the house, but he won't. The title is in my name alone, and he says he is entitled to a half of it. Please help me. So again, this person lives with her common law spouse. They live in a house that is solely in her name, meaning her name alone on the title. She says the relationship is bad. She wants him to leave. They have lived in her house together for 3 years. He's saying he is not leaving because he is entitled to a share of the house. How can she be helped? The Property Rights of Spouses Act makes provisions for the division of matrimonial property when a relationship ends. And when we say matrimonial property, it's also, we use the term interchangeably with family home, and it means the house shared by spouses, whether they are married or whether they are what we refer to as common law spouses. Now, for the purposes of Jamaican law, a common law spouse is someone that you live with for at least 5 years. And both of you have to be single, meaning both of you are unmarried. So if you're married to someone else but living with someone, that person cannot be classified as your common law spouse, so the property cannot be classified as your matrimonial home. In this case, they have been living together for 3 years. He says he's entitled to a half of it. He is not. If they were living together for at least 5 years, then perhaps he could be entitled to a half of it. So again, to be entitled to a half of property under the Property Rights of Spouses Act, when you're unmarried, you have to show that you have been living together in that house for at least 5 years. Now, that particular house has to either be in one of the spouses' names or both spouses' names. If it's in, let's say, the woman's name and a third party's name, a friend or a relative, even if they've been living there together for 20 years, it cannot classify as the family home / matrimonial home. It has to again be either in one person's name or both spouses' names. In this case, where he is refusing to leave because he's saying that he's entitled to a share in the property, it is wrong. If she wants him out, she really wants him out, it's best for her to seek the services of an attorney. She can serve him with a notice to quit. If she didn't state, but if there is any perhaps domestic violence situation, of course that would be a criminal matter, and that can be reported to the police. If she's in any kind of fear or danger, she can go to the family court to get what we call a protection order. And with a protection order, the court can grant that one spouse stays away from the property. So again, to classify as matrimonial home, the title must be in one spouse's name or both spouses' names. A lot of people think that because they live in a house with their spouse, even if there are other people's names on the title, that they're automatically entitled to it. Absolutely not. If he is entitled to anything, it would be what we refer to as an equitable interest, where perhaps you can get back what you put into the house. So let's say you added on a room or you refurbished, you painted. If the matter ends up in court and you can show your receipt and you say, listen, judge, I spent $200,000 doing this. If it gets to that stage, then perhaps a judge may order that you are entitled to a refund of what you would have spent. It can happen, it is rare, but it can happen. But certainly, if it's a case where you've just been there for 3 years, you will not be entitled to a half of that house. Again, our number to call in, 876-922-41125. or text and WhatsApp line 876-881-5254. Email gloria@landsolutions.ja.com. Continuing with the Property Rights of Spouses Act, just to make it clear, there have been instances where the court or judges look outside of the matrimonial property in awarding assets to one party. And it's usually a case where perhaps the party whose name is on the title, they may have sold the matrimonial home, so there's no asset left for a spouse to get. Common scenario, have property that's a matrimonial home. John and Mary have lived in it. Only Mary's name is on the title. The relationship has broken down. Mary went ahead and sold the property. And now John, as a spouse or a former spouse, is trying to get his half share of the property. Since the house would have been sold, there's nothing from that particular asset for John to get. And if that is the case, the court may look to other property owned by Mary in order for John to gain the half value of the property. A lot of people, when that happens, some people think it means that a spouse is automatically entitled to a half of any property owned by the other spouse. That is not the case. And that is why sometimes some spouses are hesitant in buying other properties when they see that their relationship is breaking down. So again, the general rule is that your spouse is not automatically entitled to a half share in all your properties. The courts will only look to other properties if the matrimonial home is no longer available. It's no longer available to be shared between the parties. Over to our WhatsApp line. Changing directions a bit. When someone is selling a house, is it usual for the furniture to be included? And two, how is the sale price of furniture determined? It is not usual, but it is certainly done sometimes. In the majority of cases, when people are selling property, they sell it without the contents, meaning without the furniture. But it happens sometimes where they will just want to get rid of everything, meaning want to get rid of the house and get rid of the furniture. And usually in cases like that, we will do two agreements. So we'll do an agreement for sale for the property, meaning the house and the land, and a separate agreement for the chattels, meaning whatever is being sold. So furniture, appliances. You can get a valuation done, but sometimes some people just come up with a value, a nominal value. Let's say you're selling a 3-bedroom house filled with furniture. That could be an additional $2-3 million, depending on the condition of the contents of the house. So it is not usual, but it certainly can be done. Remember too, if you are buying a house, let's say, and the furniture is included, usually there is no warranty on any of the things, because these would not be new items. You would not be purchasing these directly from the manufacturer. You're purchasing these from the property owner. So make sure you do a thorough inspection of the item. You can't say, let's say after the sale is finished, you can come back and say, well, this bed doesn't work for me, this TV isn't working. You're buying these items as is. And that is actually the general case when you're buying property in Jamaica. You take it as is. Caveat emptor, buyer beware. So as the purchaser, please ensure that you do your due diligence. It is not the seller's responsibility to do a valuation report, to do a surveyor's identification report, to do a structural engineer's report. If the seller wants to do it, no problem. And even better if they want to share the results of those reports with you. In fact, many sellers sometimes do a valuation just to see what the property is valued at so they can determine how much to advertise it for. But as the buyer, it is your responsibility to get these reports, particularly when you are getting a mortgage. These reports are mandatory. Too often, purchasers will come into us and say, I am not doing this. It is the seller's responsibility. Absolutely not. And I've seen cases where purchasers say they're not doing it, and then they lose out on a particular property. As the purchaser, ensure that you do these reports. In fact, like I said, the mortgage company will not entertain your application without these reports. Again, our numbers to call in live on air, 876-922-411-225, or text and WhatsApp line, 876-881-5254. To call us in office, this is the law offices of Brown, Finley and Company. The numbers are 876-908-1950, 876-908-3518. And just to remind our listeners, to speak to me live on air, you have to call Power 106. This is Land Solutions.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
2:45. The following is a public service announcement from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. The Ministry of Labor and Social Security is advising the public that limited services will be offered at the newly relocated office at 4 Sam Sharp Square, Montego Bay, from Wednesday, September 1 through to Friday, September 3. The Ministry appreciates your kind understanding and expects full service to be restored on Monday, September 6. The Ministry apologizes for the inconvenience this may cause. That was a public service announcement from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. Jesus, Jesus, oh Jesus, Jesus, oh how I love to call your name.
Tune in to Power 106 FM for the longest running religious call-in program on Jamaican radio, The Prayer Line. Join Pastor Errol Hay and his team as they offer spiritual guidance and intercession grounded in biblical doctrine. Hear powerful testimonies from Jamaica and around the world. The Prayer Line, a source of support and inspiration in these trying times. That's The Prayer Line on Power 106 FM, Sundays at 6:30 p.m. Join us.
You shall live and declare the works of the Lord. Amen. You shall be a living testimony. You're on the Lord's side.
Welcome back to Land Solutions. I'm your host for today, Calicia Findlay. Again, our numbers to call in live on air, 876-922-411-225. The text and WhatsApp line, 876-881-5254. Email, gloria@landsolutionsja.com. You may also send us a message on Facebook at facebook.com/landsolutions. And to call us in office, the office numbers are 876-908-3518, 876-908-1950. Those are the numbers for our office at Winchester Business Center in Halfway Tree. To call us at the Ocho Rios office, where we will be this and every Thursday. That number is 876-974-6083. Again, that's 876-974-6083. I have a message in relation to the Property Rights of Spouses Act. Good day. If you have been living with your spouse for 6 years and he moved out, can he still make a claim? Yes. Yes, a claim can still be made. That 5-year period is the minimum period. So once you satisfy the 5-year period, if it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, then yes, a claim can still be made for half of the matrimonial home. It should be noted that the Act, that the Property Rights of Spouses Act, says that any claim to be brought under the Act should be made within 1 year of the parties being divorced or within 1 year of the relationship breaking down. So let us say the relationship ended December 2021. Technically speaking, the act says you have up until December 2022 to file a claim. There have been, however, cases where you can apply to the court for an extension. And there are many reasons. The most common one usually is that the parties were not aware of it. So depending on the situation, the court will grant the party that extension and allow them to bring a claim even though that 1 year period has passed. I should say also that now the law seems to be saying that if you are making a claim, so that if a spouse or a former spouse is making a claim or is attempting, I should say, to make a claim under the Property Rights of Spouses Act, after the death of the other spouse, they will not be successful. So let me just break that down. John and Mary were together. It was John's name alone on the title. The property qualified as the family home under the Property Rights of Spouses Act. John died. And then now, after John's death, Mary is now attempting to make a claim to get a half of the house because it was their matrimonial home. The law now says, or judges now say, that the Property Rights of Spouses Act is not applicable after a spouse has died. So if you are in a situation where your name isn't on the title, or for whatever other reason you want to get a half of the property, it has to be done while the other spouse is alive. If you wait until a spouse has died, you will not be successful. In the past, it could have been done, but there was recent case law to say that that has now been changed. Any action being brought under the Property Rights of Spouses Act must be done while the other spouse is alive. Over to our text line. My neighbor's fence is over onto my boundary by about 1 foot. Can I force them to hit it down? It depends. It depends on how long it has been there. So for all regular listeners, if you may know that once someone's fence comes over onto your boundary, that's what we call an encroachment. Not encroachment, encroachment. And let me just say, to all listeners and prospective clients, we want to help as many of you as possible. But when you call and say, somebody's encroaching on my land, I want to take them to court, I want you to write a letter to take them off. All right, fine, no problem. How do you know that they are encroaching on your land? I just know because I know the property. I've known it from I was a child. I know where the peg should be. I can see that it's not lined up. You may very well be right. You know the property. We've never seen it. But as the attorneys, we need evidence. We can't go by word of mouth. So if we have to end up in court, that's not going to work. Even for us to prepare a letter, we need evidence. And that evidence comes in the form of a surveyor's identification report. So if you call us and say, my neighbor is encroaching, I want you to do something about it, and you don't have a recent surveyor's identification report, there's nothing we can do to help you. And think about it. What kind of lawyer worth their salt would be willing to take a case without any appropriate evidence? So help us to help you. If we tell you that we need the surveyor's identification report, it's not because we want you to go and waste your money. It's because this is absolutely necessary. Because the surveyor's identification report will show you exactly if there is an encroachment, the nature of the encroachment. So that is a necessity. In this case, neighbor encroaching, she says, by about a foot. Can she hit it down? I'm going to assume that she has a self-work identification report, so that's how she knows the distance of the encroachment. I say you can hit it down depending on how long the encroachment has been there. And of course, this would have to be done in consultation and in dialogue with your neighbor. The law says if there is an encroachment and it has been there for over 7 years, so we're talking about boundaries now, not the usual 12 years that everybody is accustomed to, but 7 years when it comes to boundary issues. If it's been like this for more than 7 years, then your neighbor would have automatically acquired that section that they have come over onto. That's just what the law says, the Limitation of Actions Act. If it has been there for less than 7 years, then they would not have automatically acquired it. If that is the case, then you can have discussions with your neighbor. See if they are willing to hit it down, or perhaps see if they are willing to buy that extra section, that 1 foot from you. If they are willing to purchase it from you, you can get it surveyed, get it valued. You would prepare the necessary documents, have it cut off, and to be placed into the neighbor's title. So you can't automatically hit it down. So please send me a follow-up message. Let me know how long it has been there. Over to our WhatsApp line. On what grounds can I sue an executor? My grandmother wills that her house should not be sold, but the executor sold it. This is a common mistake made by many people when they make their will. So even though we say all the time that it is not mandatory, it's not a must that a lawyer must prepare your will, it is highly advisable, it is highly recommended that you obtain legal advice when preparing your wills, and preferably to have an attorney draft the will for you. Because it is actually illegal, contrary to public policy, to state in your will that your land, your house, should not be sold. Many people say it, but it is of no moment. You should not say it. It cannot be put into effect. So in this case, because this clause is, I don't want to say illegal, but because it is contrary to policy, then you would have no grounds on which to sue the executor, because it should not have been stated. Even more so, even if, let's say, your grandmother willed the house to you and the executor still went ahead and sold it, you still may not have any grounds on which to sue the executor, because an executor has that inherent power to sell property regardless of what is said in the will. Let's say it's a case where there isn't enough money to pay the attorneys, to pay the debt duties to the government, or there is enough money for the executor himself to receive their commission, that's 6% of the current value. If there's absolutely nowhere else for an executor to look to settle the estate, then the executor has every right to sell the property. And again, the executor does not need the consent of the beneficiaries. So just a quick recap. You should not state in a will that property cannot be sold. If it is said in a will that property should not be sold, and the executor goes ahead and sells the property, there are no grounds for you to sue the executor. Again, an executor has the inherent power to sell property regardless of what is said in the will. Generally speaking, though, for a beneficiary to sue an executor, you would have to be able to show that the executor has been negligent. Perhaps there's a conflict of interest, maybe self-dealing. Let's say the executor sells the property to himself for below market value. That is what we call self-dealing. That's a conflict of interest. So where the executor has completely breach their duties. An executor is also referred to as a trustee. They have a fiduciary responsibility. So they are in a place of trust, literally and figuratively. And where they have breached those duties, you can file suit against an executor. Usually the most common ground on which executors are sued is for lack of communication and negligence. And it can't just be lack of communication by itself. You have to show that lack of communication, that negligence, that dishonesty has caused loss. So if you're in a situation like that, please consult with an attorney. And executors, please communicate with the beneficiaries. Remember, you work for the beneficiaries. You are now in the shoes of the testator. You have an obligation, you have a fiduciary responsibility to beneficiaries. Our numbers to call again, 876-922-411-225, the text and WhatsApp line. I see the messages coming in. I'll try to get to them as soon as possible. 876-881-5254. This is Land Solutions.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
3 o'clock.
Attention seniors, the Ministry of Labor and Social Security is now accepting applications for the social pension program. If you are 75 years or older and do not have a pension or steady income, you should apply. Take your government ID, birth certificate, NIS and TRN cards, and your bank account details. Remember, if you receive PATH or poor relief, your benefit will be transferred to the new program. For more information, call 876-922-8007. The Social Pension Program, caring for our elderly. A message from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security.
You're listening to Land Solutions during both sides of the story here on Power 106 FM. Land Solutions, the program where all your land-related matters are dealt with. Anything at all to do with the sale or purchase of land. You've come to the right place. Here are the numbers to call: 876-922-4113, 876-922-4114, and 876-922-4115. The text line for Land Solutions is the same as the WhatsApp number, which means you can send your text messages as well as WhatsApp messages, and that number is 876-881-5254, 876-881-5254. The website is landsolutionsja.com, landsolutionsja.com. The email address is gloria@landsolutionsja.com, gloria@landsolutionsja.com. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/landsolutionsja. The law firm Brown, Findlay and Company is headquartered in Suite 39 of the Winchester Business Center, corner of Hope Road, corner of Hope Road and Winchester Road in Halfway Tree. They also have an office at Shop 6 upstairs, the JN building in Ocho Rios, St. Anne. In fact, a lawyer is on duty every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Ocho Rios office. And the number for the Ocho Rios office is 876-974-6083, 876-974-6083. In a moment, once again, here's attorney at law, Calicia Findlay.
Thank you, Dervan. Over to our WhatsApp messages. My husband died without leaving a will. I would like to have the title for the car changed into my name. To have that done, you would need to administer your husband's estate. I pause because sometimes you see it's a little, I don't want to say unfortunate, but we see it happening all the time where the only asset in the estate is, let's say, it's a car or a bank account, and it may not, the car may not be worth a lot. I've seen cases where sometimes legal fees can end up being worth more than the value of the asset. And there may not even be a lot of money in the bank account. So, but that is the law. If it's only that person, the deceased person's name on the account, on the car title, on the house title, and they don't leave a will, the estate has to be administered. Only after you have administration and the court has appointed you as the administratrix refers to a female, only after you have that court appointment, that court order, can you then get title in your name. So for those of you who are listening, think about how you want to plan your estate. Do a will. If you have any assets that are solely in your name, perhaps you want to consider adding someone's name to the title, adding someone's name to your bank account. And of course, everyone's situation is different. It may be easier for some people to go right ahead and add someone to their title or to their bank account without a second thought. Some people have family members, friends who they trust wholeheartedly. Others do not. So just assess your situation. What may be good for Mary may not be the best situation for John. But whatever your situation though is, take a moment, pause, and think what would happen in your current situation. What would happen now if you were to die? Do you already have a will? Do you need a will? Do you need to add names to your account? The converse is also true. Do you already have a will? Do you need to remove someone from your will? A beneficiary, an executor? Do you need to change people out? Have relationships changed? Do you have a name on your bank account, but you no longer have a relationship with that person? You no longer trust that person? Perhaps you may want to think about removing that name, because as unfortunate as it is to perhaps to die without leaving a will or without making adequate arrangements, it perhaps is even equally, I should say, as unfortunate, or maybe more so, to know that you have passed away and your property is going to someone who you would not have wanted it to go to. So think on those things. Over to our text line. How long after someone dies should the executor read the will? There really is no set time in law. It all depends on the executor, the beneficiaries. Some people do it right away as soon as someone dies. Some wait until just before the funeral, after the funeral, a year, a couple of years. I would not advise anybody to wait that long, but there is no time. As always, I personally think the sooner the better. Out of respect for the deceased person, I think it's best to at least wait until the person has been buried. But again, it can be done at any time. Many people usually, I should say executors, feel that they should wait a year because of what is commonly referred to as the executor's year. There is no strict rule about that. I think that rule has really that term is just there because usually that's the time within which most executors act. And also, death duties. Death duties also referred to as transfer tax on death. Interest on death duties kick in after a year of death. So if someone dies December 2021, the government can charge interest on their estate duties beginning December 2022. So usually, most executors act within a year to avoid any interest going on to the estate duties. But again, there is no set time, but the sooner the better, especially because everything is getting expensive. Lawyers' fees are increasing. So far, estate duties remain at 1.5%, but you never can tell what can change. And it's just always best to type an estate as soon as possible. It's so no good to just have an estate languishing for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. That's usually what causes contention, what causes violence, confusion. Just try and get it done as soon as possible. If I've paid property taxes for the year, but I've sold my land before that year is up, can I claim back the excess property taxes from the tax office? Absolutely not. The tax office is not going to give you a refund of any excess. It may be in a perfect world, but no. Usually what happens is if you're selling property, so property taxes are usually due March 31st, April 1. And we pay property taxes then for the entire year. If you sell your property during that year and you paid for the year, you can ask the purchaser to refund you the excess. And that is actually a standard clause that is placed in agreements for sale. It usually says something to the effect that property taxes will be apportioned on completion, meaning that the vendor will be responsible for all the property taxes paid up until the property is transferred to the purchaser. Once the purchaser becomes the owner, he should refund the vendor the excess property taxes. And the same goes for water rates. If the vendor has paid up water rates, the purchaser should refund them any excess. That is not the case, though, with electricity. So when you're selling property, you, as a vendor, you have to ensure that property taxes and water are up to date. Not the case with electricity. If it's an apartment complex, not a complex, I should say, an apartment, I guess it could be a complex. But if they're selling an apartment, the vendor also has to ensure that maintenance charges are paid up to date, and if those are overpaid, the purchaser should refund the vendor. So no, you won't be getting any refund from the government, from the tax office. If you're looking to recoup any overpayment of property taxes, you would have to look to the purchaser for that. And remember also, property taxes, you don't have to pay for the entire. If you can and you want to, no problem. But you can pay in quarterly installments, or you can pay for 6 months at a time. That is a possibility. My tenant owes me rent and keeps making promises to pay, but still nothing. What can I do? I think you know what you have to do. If you keep getting promises, you can take those promises to the bank, and I'm sure you have your obligations. So you would need to then, if you want the tenant out, and I say if, because I can't see why you would want to keep the tenants when they are not paying you, but I know there are instances when some people, depending on the area, they would actually prefer to have a non-paying tenant just to say that, or just to know that someone is occupying the house because they don't want to leave it empty. But if you're at your wit's end, nothing is coming, then you would need to serve the tenants with a notice, that's a notice to leave. And then once the notice has expired, you take them to court for recovery of possession. And just to expound a little on notices, if your tenant owes you rent and that rent is not forthcoming, and you serve the tenant a notice, and the reason you state in the notice is for non-payment of rent, as soon as the tenant pays up the rent, the notice is automatically cancelled. Because notices must give a reason. And usually the reason is for non-payment of rent, or the landlord wants the property for their own use and occupation, or to be repaired. So if you say that you're giving notice because the rent has not been paid, if the tenant pays the notice, if the tenant pays the rent, then the notice is automatically cancelled. So if you actually want the tenant out, you will have to have another legitimate reason in your notice. So if you serve the notice, the rent is paid, and you still want them out, you have to serve them with another notice stating another reason. I've seen it happen where someone has served a notice because of non-payment of rent. The rent is paid, the tenant is still there, they take the tenant to court, they show the judge the notice, the tenant says, but I paid the rent. Yes, I got the notice said for non-payment of rent, here's my receipt, I paid the rent. The judge says, sorry, Miss Landlord, you're out of luck. The payment of the rent cancels the notice, so be very careful. I just got married, don't have much money. My wife's family says we can build our house on their land. Is that a good idea? It is never my advice for someone to build or to spend any money on an asset that is not theirs. This is a recipe for disaster. And I understand the need to have somewhere to lay your head at night. Someone is offering you this property. It is your family. You say you just got married. I'm sure everything is nice and rosy now. But we have to be realistic. Things could go wrong. I'm not saying that that will happen in your case, but it is a possibility. I would never advise anyone to build on someone else's land. If it's a case where they can do a deed of gift of an attorney to a transfer to you of the land, then perhaps that can be entertained. And I'll get back to that shortly. This is Land Solutions.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
3:15.
Consumer Talks, educating and empowering consumers towards a more vigilant and confident consumer-friendly Jamaica. Join us every second and last Tuesday of each month at 9:35 on Real Business. Listen and learn about your rights and responsibilities. Learn how the CAC works to empower consumers in Jamaica. Consumer Talks, brought to you by the Consumer Affairs Commission. Protecting your rights, securing our future.
It's the final segment of today's edition of Land Solutions. Here's your opportunity to get in those questions before time runs out for today. The numbers to call, 876-922-4113-5, 876-922-4113-5. The text line for Land Solutions is the same as the WhatsApp number, 876-881-5254, 876-881-5254. The website is landsolutionsja.com, landsolutionsja.com. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/landsolutionsja, facebook.com/landsolutionsja. The email address is gloria@landsolutionsja.com, gloria@landsolutionsja.com. If you wish to get in touch with the law firm Brown, Findlay and Company, they're headquartered in Suite 39 of the Winchester Business Center, corner of Winchester Road and Hope Road in Halfway Tree, St. Andrew. They also have an office at Shop 6 upstairs, the JN Building in Ocho Rios, St. Anne. You're encouraged to call ahead instead of turning up at the offices of Brown, Findlay and Company. The numbers to call, 876-908-1950 or 876-908-3518. Please note as well, a lawyer is usually on duty every Thursday at the Ocho Rios location, Shop 6 upstairs, the JN Building. Every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., a lawyer will be on duty. And the number to call the Ocho Rios office, 876-974-6083, 876-974-6083. Once again, here's attorney at law, Calicia Findlay.
Thank you, Dervan. Continuing with that message, someone says they just got married. They don't have a lot of money. His wife's family says they can build their house on their land, and he wants to know if that is a good idea. As I was saying, it's never a good idea to build on someone else's land, albeit that it's your wife's family, because you never know the path that life may take you on. Things may change. If the family is in a position to, albeit that it's your wife's family, to give you the piece of land, you can have an attorney prepare the appropriate documentation, then fine. If you have if they're not willing or able to do that, and you have absolutely no choice but to accept the gift, but not to accept the gift, but to build on it as much as possible. And I know this may be difficult. Try not to spend too much money. Don't build a 10-bedroom mansion. Because remember, if you're building on someone else's land, your house is going to be on their title. So technically it's still going to belong to them. If at all possible, try not to build anything too ostentatious, too expensive. Something as temporary as possible. But again, your best bet is to not do it at all. See if you can find somewhere on your own. Understand the constraints. If that's not a possibility, see if they can transfer that section to you outright. So that section will belong to you and your wife. If that is not possible, then your absolute last resort is try not to build anything too expensive and let it be as temporary as possible. Because I wouldn't want you to be in a situation where you can't afford to lose it. If it comes down to it, if there's some dispute, it should be something that you can, quote unquote, I say this very loosely, afford to lose. It's easier to lose a wooden structure as opposed to a 10-bedroom concrete mansion. Over to our WhatsApp. Good afternoon. My granduncle died without leaving a will. My aunt has power of attorney for his assets. She's trying to get the land title transferred in her name and is requesting other family members' assistance in paying for same to be done. What would you advise? All right. You say your grandfather died without a will and your aunt has power of attorney for his assets. A power of attorney, and I hope you can give me a little more information on what you mean by power of attorney, but a power of attorney is only valid while a person is alive. So if your aunt had power of attorney while your grandfather was alive, the power of attorney has died with him. What your aunt can do, and I'm going to assume, I'm not sure, if she is perhaps his child, then she can apply to administer his estate. You say she's in charge of his assets, but in charge how? When someone dies without a will, it is their next of kin. Let me just say, I don't want to get too technical, who can apply to administer their estate. So if his wife is still alive, his wife can apply to administer his estate, or his children, or a niece or a nephew, brother, sister, parents. That's what we mean by next of kin. And there's actually a list, a chain, what we call a chain of representation. So let us say in this case, it is the aunt who is applying. She's applying to be administrator of the estate. If you want to assist her, perhaps you can, but ensure that you seek the advice or you consult with an attorney. Because you wouldn't want to be, I'm assuming, let me say that, I'm assuming you wouldn't want to be helping her in transferring the assets in her name alone. If there are other family members who are entitled to share in the estate, and that is what she is going to be working on with an attorney, then certainly. So please ensure that an attorney is involved and is applying for letters of administration. But again, just to be clear, power of attorney dies with someone. Where someone dies without a will, to be in charge of their estate, to settle their estate, someone must apply for letters of administration. A text message from the UK. I have had a survey done for a subdivision by a reputable surveyor. I have been told that the papers have been lost. We have spoken to him about providing another copy, but he has not done so and is ignoring us. What can we do now? I'm so sorry to hear this, and it's an all too common complaint. But nothing is ever really lost, because they can get documents again, what we call reprints, photo prints from the National Land Agency, from the parish council. If you say they're ignoring you, you can perhaps report them to the Surveyors Association. Send me a follow-up message. Let me know how long you have been have been attempting to get some redress on this issue, but it seems like a matter that can be easily resolved. Let me just send me a follow-up message and I'll see how best I can assist you. Let me just also see if I can get in some more messages. Again, or text on WhatsApp line 876-881-5254. Email gloria@landssolutionsja.com. To call the law office of Brown, Finley and Company, the numbers are 876-908-1950 and 876-908-3518. I just put in an offer to buy a house, but I realized that the current owner has a mortgage. Does that mean I have to buy it with that mortgage? And can I cancel my offer? No, you are not going to be buying the house with the current mortgage. So people sell their properties, their houses, their land all the time with their existing mortgages. What it means is that when the sale is finished, their mortgage will be paid off, it will be discharged, it will be cancelled. Your name will go on the title, and if you're getting a mortgage, your mortgage will also go on the title. So, simply because there is a mortgage on a title does not mean that you're going to be taking that person's mortgage. That person's mortgage is between themselves and their mortgage company. In fact, mortgage companies will not allow someone to sell a house with a mortgage unless that mortgage is going to be paid off. That's not something you want. So that's not something you need to worry about. You also ask if you can cancel your offer. If you're asking if you can cancel your offer because of the existing mortgage, it's not necessary. You really don't have to. Again, you're not going to be taking that person's mortgage. That person's mortgage will be paid off when your sale is finished. Generally speaking, though, after you have made an offer on a property and it has been accepted, you can cancel. You have to be careful, though. You can cancel once no monies have exchanged hands. So, usually when you're buying property and you're using a real estate agent, the agent prepares what we call the offer to purchase. It is usually signed by the purchaser first, then the seller signs it to say they accept it, and those offers always state that they are subject to a formal agreement for sale being prepared. The purchaser signs the offer, vendor signs the offer in acceptance, and then the vendor's lawyer prepares the sale agreement. If at any time during that process, before monies have exchanged hands and before a sale agreement is signed, then a purchaser, and even a vendor too, can cancel an offer, which is why we urge parties, after the offer is fully signed, ensure that the sale agreement is prepared as quickly as possible, because a seller can technically court several buyers at once. It may not be the nicest thing to do, it may not be fair, what many people will say, but it certainly is not illegal. So a seller can technically sign 3 offers with 3 different people and go ahead with the highest one, or even go ahead with whoever they prefer. I've seen where sellers go ahead with a purchaser who's offering less money just simply because they like that person or the spirit set them. You know how we are as Jamaicans. Just ensure you do it as quickly as possible. And same for a purchaser too. They can sign different offers. Not everybody does it, but alas, it can be done. There's a difference though between cancelling an offer and cancelling a sale agreement. Again, I said the offer is preparatory. It comes before the sale agreement. It's always subject to sale agreement being prepared. If the sale agreement has been signed and a deposit has been paid, it's not as easy to cancel. If the purchaser cancels without cause, they can lose their deposit. They can lose 10% of the sale price, even if it is stated in the sale agreement or not. they can use that money. The vendor, on the other hand, if after the sale agreement is signed and the deposit has been paid, if the vendor decides to cancel, the purchaser can take them to court and sue them for what we call specific performance, meaning you're asking a judge to force them to carry out the terms of the contract. So you can't just cancel unilaterally, can't just cancel an agreement for sale. Of course, I'm going to assume that all parties listening who are engaged in any sale or purchase of properties that you would already have an attorney, and your attorney would advise you accordingly. Thanks so much for tuning in to another edition of Land Solutions. I've been your host for today, Calypsia Finley. Keep your messages coming to 876-881-5354. And as always, feel free to call us in office at 876-908-1950, 876-908-3518. You may also email us at gloria@landsolutionsja.com. And thanks as always to Dervan and the team at Power 106. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
Importers, provide proper invoices for customs when presenting goods for examination. This could prevent delays during clearance. The time by the Jamaica Customs Agency is 3:30.
I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream. I have a dream that someday this will be a better land. Baby, you can see me meaning. Baby, you can see me dreaming. I'm sure someday you'll understand. We'll all be better when we get together and dream.
Thank you so much for staying with us here on your program, Both Sides of the Story, Power 106 FM. Still streaming live on the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com. Live on your smart devices all over the world. Taking your calls on 876-922-4112-5. What's on your mind this afternoon? 876-922-4112-5. If you want to message us, feel free. We're on YouTube, the Dervan Malcolm YouTube channel, and we're also on Facebook Live and so many other platforms, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, they're all up and running. Feel free to post your comments, your questions, your ideas, your suggestions, your concerns, your issues, whatever is on your mind. It is your program, Both Sides of the Story, Power 106 FM, an opportunity for us to engage in discussions right across Jamaica and the world and feel a part of the Jamaican family. And so we welcome Jamaicans at home and abroad, and we acknowledge a very important category of people, friends of Jamaica. Thank you as well for tuning in. Hello to Queenie Easton. She's asking us to play Queen Ifrica's Predictor's Paradise. We'll have a look into that one, Queenie Easton. She says, good afternoon, Mr. Malcolm. To you too. I have a dream, she reiterates with brown applauding hands. Cherry Henry says, good afternoon, Mr. Dervan and listeners. To you too, Cherry Henry. Jennifer Stewart from Q Road in Kencott, East Central St. Andrew. Good afternoon to you and blessings to you too. Ricardo in Glengoff, St. Catherine. Good afternoon. He's shouting out listeners all across the world as usual. Sir T says good afternoon to all. To you too, Sir T. Donovan Campbell, welcome. Karen Campbell, good afternoon as well. And thank you so much for making it both sides of the story here on Power 106 FM. Ton load of messages, more to come. Violet White, good afternoon and blessings to you too. Norman Hines in St. Thomas, welcome. Ellis Duggan says, good afternoon, Mr. Malcolm, from out of Danieltown, Trelawney. Welcome, Ellis Duggan from Danieltown, Trelawney. I believe normally you are resident in a place called London, Ontario, Canada. Let's see who else is messaging us. Jacqueline Simmons, good afternoon and blessings to you too. Merveline Titus, welcome. Inez Iona Campbell in Bridgeport, Connecticut tells us it's a snowy and cold Monday. We hope we're managing to transmit the warmth of Jamaica, land we love, to comfort you. Inez Iona Campbell in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Faye Weller says, good afternoon, Mr. Dervan and listeners. Have a wonderful afternoon and stay safe. And you do likewise, Faye Weller. God bless you too. Beverly in Toronto, Canada says, good afternoon, Sir D. We're begging for some sunshine, please and thanks. Wish we could ship it to you or email you or WhatsApp it to you, but they are not there just yet. No doubt the scientists and the digital experts are working on it. But we hope we're managing to warm you up with Jamaican sounds in terms of at least the Jamaican accent on the radio right now. Golden Brown says, Happy New Year to the lawyer, in reference there to Calicia Findlay. Gray Shim says, good afternoon, Mr. Malcolm. A new week, and as the positive cases of Omicron rise, many are recovering after mild symptoms. The jab seems to lessen the severity. What is unknown is how these vaccines and other remedies will affect the immune response in the future for other strains. Good and stay warm, people are faring, writes Gray Shim. Thank you very much, Gray Shim, for your message. And let's see who else. Let's go to WhatsApp now. Let's go to WhatsApp. Hello to Mrs. P. Wilson Blake. Good afternoon to you. Eureka says, good afternoon, Calicia. Oh, this one is for Calicia. Let's forward this immediately to Calicia Findlay. And there we go. Is this Calicia? Let's see. What? Very nice, Calicia. Very nice. Let's see. Dr. Rohan Taylor. I don't think this is Dr. Rohan Taylor, is it? This person in Portland, calling for call centers in Port Antonio and Buff Bay in Portland. We did share your call with Gloria Henry, who heads the Business Process Industry Association of Jamaica. And she did commit to doing some due diligence with respect to the parish of Portland and call centers and get back to us. And so we made the connection with her last week, and we look forward to hearing from her this week. If not, we'll give her a reminder call. Michael from Belle Plaine in Clarendon is greeting everybody as usual and wishing everybody a safe time. Thank you, Michael. Another message. Good day, Dervan. Please wish Sharika Nikita Singh a happy birthday. Life should not be lived. It should be celebrated. Happy birthday to my friend. Hope you live to see many more. We hope so too. So this is a birthday greeting for Sharika Nikita Singh. Happy birthday to Sharita Nikita Singh. And this is coming from someone who goes by the moniker G. Well, good afternoon, G. Here's another message. Let's go over. Are we finished with YouTube, with WhatsApp messages? Let me see. Not quite. Here's Clarky Bless in Hunstown, St. Mary. Clarky Bless says, good afternoon, Mr. Malcolm. Happy Monday to you and your listeners. Clarky Bless, Hunstown, St. Mary. Happy Monday to you too. And now we need to forward this message, this response from Calicia to, let me see who sent the message. Message from, was it Eureka? Yes, Eureka sent the message. So we're going to send you Calicia's reply, Eureka. And there is Eureka. Eureka just got the message. All the best. And let's see. More messages. And this one, let's go back to YouTube. YouTube, Elton Gordon says, good evening, good afternoon, Elton. Elton Gordon says, you're doing a good job. First time calling from Orlando, Florida. Welcome, Elton Gordon from Orlando, Florida. Last time we were in Orlando, Florida was in, that was 2014. That's the last time we were in Orlando, Florida. O'Neill Madden says, good afternoon, Teach. I'm in class anticipating what I'll learn today. Good afternoon, O'Neill Madden. Thank you very much for your message on YouTube. And there are other messages popping in, and we'll eventually get to those. Thank you so much for making it both sides of the story here on Power 106 FM. Let's go to the text line, which doubles as the WhatsApp number. Hello, good afternoon. Oh dear, what's happening in the background? You're not ready for us. You're not ready for us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
No, your background is noisy. You have to control the children.
Long time I don't hear from you.
No, you're the one who hasn't called us in a while.
All right, the man said 1,000 years like you've been gone, I'm not gone 1,000 years.
What's on your mind? I'm all right.
If you ask me what's on the mind, you know, the only thing on the mind is freedom, redemption, international repatriation. All black sons and daughters return home to our birthland under Queen Elizabeth's sovereignty, who ruled Jamaica. Get the most high, Holy Emmanuel I, Selassie I. Yeah, that's stuff, all right. Yeah, when I call if I talk to you about this, frankly, I know. Mark Golding. Honorable Mark Golding. Why Miss Carl?
He doesn't carry the title. He doesn't carry the title. He doesn't carry the title of honorable.
No, me just, all right, respect.
No, it's a common error that is made. In fact, we have been styling even some of our representatives overseas working in the Jamaican missions. We've been styling them as honorable, which is inaccurate in terms of the designation. That's just point of fact. You know, we always try our best to ensure that you get accurate information here. So, yeah.
I am accustomed to all of us, you know, humanity.
Yes.
Honorable, you know, God is our Father, you know, and He's a King, and we are the sons and daughters of Him, so we must be honorable. That's why I give every one of us, you know, humanity, these honor.
I hear you.
Coming from our father.
Yeah.
So may I say why Mark Golding is dubbed as Queen Elizabeth loyal opposition?
It's not. No, it's not. It's not. That's not. That's not unique to Mark Golding. He just happens to be the holder of the office of the leader of the opposition at this time.
That's right. So when it say Queen Elizabeth loyal opposition, what that means?
I would imagine that the opposition will act in accordance with the tenets of good governance and all the other tenets that come with occupying such a position.
In Her Majesty government, in loyalties to Her Majesty, the opposition party or leader loyalty.
No, no, loyalty. The loyalty is to the people of Jamaica. But the idea is that it's just one of those terms of endearment, really. It's one moment, please.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
3:45.
The Jamaica Agricultural Commodities Regulatory Authority, JACRA, is now being onboarded to the Jamaica Single Window for Trade, JSWIFT. Effective January 10, 2022, JSWIFT will be facilitating online applications for all JACRA import permit releases. Traders and their agents will now be able to make online payments for JACRA cess. Benefits will include faster processing times and increased convenience, facilitating trade and doing business. No more walk-ins or waiting in lines. The JACRA Import Permit Release Service, effective January 10, 2022 on JSWIFT.
Just to put the facts out there, the phrase, it was originally His Majesty's opposition. That's how it started. His Majesty's opposition, which was coined back in 1826, before the advent of the modern two-party system, when at that time Parliament was made up of more interests than just two main political parties, for example. So it's more interests, relationships, factions, rather than what we have now, which is regarded as coherent political parties of today. So the phrase was originally coined in jest, just as I thought. The phrase was originally coined in jest in attacking Foreign Secretary George Canning in the House of Commons. John Hobhouse said jokingly, "It is said to be hard on His Majesty's ministers to raise objections of this character, but it is more hard on His Majesty's opposition to compel them to take this course." So a bit of gesturing, which led to the coining of that term. In other words, think nothing of it.
Her Majesty ministers here in Jamaica, our cabinet headed by our Prime Minister Andrew Holness, and our parliamentarian and our loyal opposition.
Again, remember that these offices will outlive the people who hold them. And those of us who think we'll be around forever are out of touch with the realities of life. We don't hold any position forever and ever. Amen. We occupy a position for a particular point in time, and it's for us to do our best in service to the individuals, institutions, organizations we have been asked to serve. And then we move on after a while and allow that general sense of a general sense of succession. All of that should be worked out. Nobody should be in any position forever. So you keep calling these people's names, but it's really the office of the leader of the opposition and the office of the prime minister. They just happen to be occupied now by Mark Golding in the case of the office of the opposition leader, and Andrew Holness, the occupant of the office of prime minister.
This is going too long, you know.
What's going on too long?
The British monarch ruling over us as an African population here in Jamaica. You know, it's time we stand up in the strength and pride of an African sovereignty as an independent African nationwide nation.
What does an African sovereignty look like? What does that look like? African sovereignty.
An independent black nation-wide kingdom.
So, yeah, give us some more. I mean,
a black empire of Ethiopia crowned, and we are the sons and daughters.
So our under your kind of government, we would have as our head of state someone from Ethiopia. That's what you're saying?
Listen to me carefully.
Yes.
We black people here in Jamaica, we are the representative of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie.
Yes.
The golden insignia, listen carefully, I know you're going to speak on it. The golden
insignia. Man, we're not going to go back there. You've talked about this a million times on this program.
Okay. So we are the representative of the man and such a kingdom of our own. So that is our sovereignty as the first humanity.
So who will be governing? Who will be governing the country then? Who?
Not just the country, the world. He rule the world with truth and right.
No man. You're losing us now. You're losing us now, man. Come on. What is it? I'm trying to understand for you what kind of governance system, what kind of system of government would be in place in this Black African kingdom that you speak of?
A holy priesthood.
So the church would be in charge of the state.
Christ. Out of the church come the government and the state.
So who are they? So what? We won't have elections then?
No, Babylon deal with election, man.
Oh.
The church is one foundation. It is Negus, Christ our Lord.
Yes.
Against the new creation by water and the word, you know?
I
the
see.
man to party of one holy food, one holy name he presses.
No, but we still have to have some kind of a system in place. The country can't just be left in abeyance.
Our system,
yes,
it's love, wonderful love, the love of Christ to me, love, wonderful love, so I, so full and so free, wide as the ocean,
deep as the sea,
high as the heavens above, His love for I and I.
Looks like we're gonna have to arrange a studio session with you to record you. But can we leave it there for now? We have more people waiting in the wings to come on. So
remember, Ethiopian gods and goddesses of the earth, you know?
All right.
The land where gods and goddesses love to be. And we are not, our sovereignty is not in Jamaica, but in Ethiopia, Africa, you know?
We hear you loud and clear.
The next people of Jamaica is our kingdom, and that sovereignty belongs to them, not Queen Elizabeth.
The sovereignty belongs to the Tainos, That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, for them place.
Right.
The club from them.
Who took it from them?
Come and know what them I don't talk about sovereignty in Jamaica when we stand in the strength and pride of an African sovereignty.
But
Jamaica, no. Africa, yes.
So you're a part of the problem because you're one of those who have come here to take over the Tainos country?
No, I don't want the football of Jamaica.
Huh?
Repatriation, I want to return to Africa, the land of plenty. Africa, with all its natural wealth and resources, is the iron eye black people in the world. That's why they fight to all of these nations, America, England, France, all of these nations, India, the whole of them take counsel against us and mash up Africa and scatter us, that people in the Caribbean.
But you shouldn't let all of that stop you from buying a ticket, booking your ticket to Africa.
Oh, so we are not dealing with self-human interest. The man said, together we walk, together we talk, together we wash one another see.
All right, give somebody else a chance now then. Thanks for the call. Take care. All right.
Not just me alone, every one of us,
All right, take care. Bye-bye. This is your program, Both Sides of the Story, Power 106 FM. Still streaming live on the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com, live on your smart devices all over the world. Taking your calls on 876-922-4112-5. Gray Shim says, also congratulations on the return of the Jamaican bobsled team, performing in the Winter Games safely and bringing home some medals. Of course, we join you in congratulating the bobsled team. We did read the story this morning, and we want to wish them all the very best going forward. The representatives have served us well, and we already have a rich history in this area of sport. Isn't that something? A country that doesn't have snow and ice and all these things, and yet we are doing so well in winter sports, and we have done well in winter sports over the years. Yes, we know well is relative, but when all things are considered, our winter sports teams have done well. Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon, Mr. Malcolm.
Good afternoon.
Tell me something. Who is the new agriculture minister? Can you tell me?
Who is the new agriculture minister? I think that's Pernell Charles Jr.
Mr. Pernell Charles Jr., we want 3 miles of sweet potato and we want 3 miles of corn immediately.
For what? Oh, that's all he wanted to say. Sorry about that. All the best. 876-922-4112-5. The text line, same as the WhatsApp number. And since you raised the subject of food, ground provision, here's Beverly in Toronto, Canada. She says, Sir D, just have to share yellow. She has yellow ham. Yellow ham. I wonder if she means yellow yam. I think she means yellow yam. She says, yellow yam, $188 per pound in Food Basic and no frills. This is good for our hardworking farmers of Jamaica. Take a picture and send it to us, Beverly, please. Let's see what that looks like. Let us see what that looks like. Let's see. Elvis White says, hi, Dervan. This man was on earlier on Nationwide. Cliff already explained it to him, and he's still not satisfied. I think he just loves to hear himself on air, says Elvis White. So it is. People are free to call any number of talk shows in any given day to express themselves. You know the usual thing, as long as they're not being libelous in their comments or slandering anybody. The hope is that they will be respectful. And Beverline says she'll take a picture of the yellow yam and send to us. Thank you, Beverline. And all the very best to you here on your program, Both Sides of the Story, Power 106 FM. How are things with you, where you are? What's happening? We are seeing and hearing and reading of the numbers going up, which is not good. The COVID-19 numbers in this fourth wave. And if we were to take a look back at last year, this time, where we were with the numbers and where we are right now, there's a dramatic difference between the two places, where we were and where we are. So let's see what was happening last year, this time, 2021. The headline was, UK could send flood of deportees to Jamaica. And there was also a story, black market expands. And we insist on using some of these terms, don't we? Why not the underground market? One moment, please.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
4 o'clock.
Unauthorized facilities add PCR option for virus testing. Lax process opens door to fraud COVID-19 results. Billions in public funds exposed to fraud. Ricketts feel betrayed over leaked tape. Banks move to curtail card cloning. And COVID-19 at a glance. Let's look at these numbers. Last year, this time, we had 14,096 confirmed cases of COVID-19. Can you believe that? Last year, this time, 14,096 overall. Total number of confirmed cases last year, this time, 14,096. A year later, and we are now at 113,438 confirmed cases of COVID-19. So in 1 year, we have moved from 14,096 total confirmed cases to 113,438. Total number of recovered cases. Last year, this time, 11,674 people recovered from COVID-19. A year later, and that figure is 67,272. 67,272 people recovering from COVID-19. Last year, this time, St. Anne had the highest recovery rate, 85% rate of recovery from COVID-19. The total number of active cases of COVID-19 last year, this time, 1,936. A year later, and the total number of active COVID-19 cases has moved to 14,414. That total number, that figure, has moved from 1936, as in 1,936, to 14,414. The total number of deaths, sadly, condolences to the family, friends, colleagues, neighbors, well-wishers of the deceased. Last year, this time, we lost 323 people to COVID-19. 323 people. That was the number last year, this time. A year later, and 2,536 people have died from COVID-19. So last year, this time, sadly, 303 people died from COVID-19 or were confirmed as having died from COVID-19. A year later, and that number has jumped to 2,536 people dying from COVID-19. The number of patients admitted to hospital due to COVID-19 last year, 116, 12 of them being critically ill. So last year, this time, 116 patients were in hospital due to COVID-19. A year later, and 486 people have been admitted to hospital due to COVID-19. 486 people admitted to hospital due to COVID-19. That's the current number. And so the struggle in the fight against COVID-19 continues. And the hope is that we will get a handle on the situation. But we know what to do, don't we? We know what to do. So we just need to do what we know needs to be done. So let's do what needs to be done so that we can emerge from this terrible pandemic. And even as we say that, we know that there are those who have benefited from the pandemic in more ways than one. Just a reminder that in every crisis, there are opportunities. And speaking of crisis and opportunities, let's look at some numbers published by the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin. And we want to look at the labor force survey first of all. Labor force survey as at October 2021. What we're seeing, according to the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, as at October 2021, the unemployment rate was 7.1%. Jamaica's unemployment rate as at October 2021 was 7.1%. That's a decline of 3.7 percentage points. A decline in the unemployment. Well, that's relative to October 2020. So if we're comparing October 2020 to October 2021, then that's the difference, 3.7 percentage points, because the unemployment rate as at October 2021 was 7.1%, a decline of 3.7 percentage points relative to October 2020. The increase in employment, 76,600, was more than twice the increase in the labor force of 31,400. So the increase in employment amounted to 76,600, more than twice the increase in the labor force of 31,400. Also, there were fewer people outside the labor force, 29,000 to be precise. Females accounted for 57%, or 43,700 of the increase in employment. So of the new people, or of the new employment positions, those who have taken up positions in the labor force, the females accounted for 43,700 of those positions. The largest share of the increase in employment for females was in the occupation group service workers and shop and market sales workers, and industry group real estate and other business services. So in October 2021, there were 1,329,100 people in the labor force, an increase of 31,400 or 2.4% compared to the 1,297,700 in October 2020. The male labor force, MALE, the male labor force increased by 10,700 or 1.5% to 715,300, while the female labor force increased by 20,700 people or 3.5% to 613,800. There were 1,234,800 people employed in Jamaica in October, as at October 2021. That's an increase of 76,600 or 6.6% compared to the 1,158,200 employed in October 2020. The number of employed males increased by 32,900 or 5.1% to 676,200. The number of employed females was 558,600, an increase of 43,700 or 8.5%. The largest increase in the number of employed females is in the occupation group service workers and shop and market sales workers. The occupation group professionals, senior officials, and technicians had the largest increase in employment, 25,800 people, or 10.1%. So it pays to have certain qualifications in order to take up those positions referred to as professionals, senior officials, and technicians. Employment also increased in the groups elementary occupations and service workers and shop and market sales workers by 14,500 and 14,400 respectively. Males accounted for the largest share of the increase in the group elementary occupations, 10,000, while females accounted for the largest share of the increase in the group professionals, senior officials, and technicians. So we could deduce from this, a lot of these positions which fall under the category of professionals, senior officials, and technicians are occupied by females, while the group entitled elementary occupations, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and it all adds up. Those professions, those occupations are dominated by males. All the increase in the group service workers and shop and market sales workers was due to increased female employment. More females are being employed, and one would imagine Scotiabank's special business service for female entrepreneurs is likely to have an impact going forward, because, as we say in Jamaican parlance, Scotiabank money enough, and they've paid attention, and they are paying attention to the females, because the evidence shows that the females are more likely to repay their debts. They're more likely to be consistent in dealing with these matters. So I guess we males have something to learn about that. There was increased employment across most industry groups. The largest increase, 24,500 people, or 23.1%. Which area? Real estate and other business services. So there was increased employment across most industry groups, but the largest increase of 24,500 people, or 23.1%, was in real estate and other business services, which had a total employment of 130,500 people as at October 2021. Next in line, arts, entertainment, recreation, and other services. You would think with all the restrictions that they would be struggling, but apparently they're next in line in terms of increased employment. Now, this could be some of the people whose positions were made redundant during the downtime, like the absolute downtime in arts, entertainment, and recreation and other services. And with the reopening up, which started in July and continues as we speak, it perhaps is an indication of some of those same people getting back in the labor force because their businesses, their places of work, their places of employment are back in business, in a manner of speaking. And so arts, entertainment, recreation, and other services increased by 14,800 people to 111,500. Let's come back with more in a moment.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
4:15.
For employed males, the largest increase was in construction. Now, that is not a breaking story because that is all around us. You can see that. You can see that all around us. And it's been going on. Crane economics has been going on for a long time now, for at least 3 years. At least 3 years. And 2 of those years dominated by COVID-19. And even so, construction has never stopped. And so for employed males, the largest increase was in construction, 12,000 or 12.3%. And for females, as we said earlier on, real estate and other business services. But it stands to reason, construction and real estate. So no sooner than these structures are put up, they are sold, it seems, the real estate. So with the construction boom, there's the real estate and other business services spillover. Let's look at the number of unemployed people in October last year was 94,300, which is 45,200 fewer people, or 32.4%, compared to October 2020. The number of unemployed males declined by 22,200 to 39,100, or 36.2%. And the number of unemployed females by 23,000 people, that's 29.4%, to 55,200. The unemployment rate declined more for females than males. So more females are being employed. More females than males are being employed. And we naturally have more females than males in Jamaica anyway. The statistics tell us that we generally have more females than males in Jamaica. But clearly more females are being employed than males. The unemployment rate for October 2021 was 7.1%, a 3.7 percentage point decrease, lower than the 10.7% recorded in October 2020. The male unemployment rate decreased by 8.7% to 5.5%. The rate for females was 9% in October 2021, a decline of 4.2 percentage points. Larger decline in female youth unemployment. The unemployment rate for youth aged 14 to 24, the unemployment rate for youth aged 14 to 24 was 18.9% in October 2021, a decline of 9.3 percentage points compared to October 2020. The unemployment rate for male youth declined by 7.2% to 7.2 percentage points to 16.6%, while the rate for female youth declined by 12.3 percentage points to 21.6%. Larger decrease in females outside the labor force. So there's a larger decrease in females outside the labor force. In October 2021, there were 766,500 people classified as being outside the labor force. 29,000 or 3.6% fewer people than in 2020. In October 2021, there were 313,300 males and 453,200 females outside the labor force. Relative to the comparable quarter of 2020, there were 9,500 fewer males and 19,500 fewer females outside the labor force. Now, we know those were a lot of numbers to ponder, but you can, in your own time, go on your smart devices or not so smart devices, your smartphones, your regular cell phones, your laptop computers, your desktop computers, your personal computers, your tablet computers. Just go on and Google statin. Statin stands for Statistical Institute of Jamaica, and you will see all the data that we've been sharing with you. And they have done a pretty good job in terms of simplifying the data. So they put out this flyer. You can look at the flyer. The flyer says Statistical Institute of Jamaica Labor Force Survey, October 2021. And the highlight, unemployment rate, October 2021, 7.1%, a drop of 3.7% compared to October 2020. It also shows the labor force participation rate, 63.4% overall. But of that category, 69.5% are males, 57.5% females. So that's the labor force participation rate. 69.5% of the males are participating in the labor force. They are part of the labor force. 57.5% of all the females are part of the labor force. But overall, combined, the labor force, male and female, 63.4% of the population. The employed labor force is 1,234,800, and that's up by 6.6%. And how are those numbers spread? 676,200 males, 558,600 females. So there's a 5.1% increase in the employed labor force, the males employed in the labor force, and an 8.5% increase in terms of the females. The youth unemployment rate is apparently higher for the females. For the males, it's 16.6%. For the females, 21.6%. And again, we're going by this very smartly put together chart, which further simplifies the data that we shared earlier on. So, for example, you're seeing the icon representing real estate and other business services. And they have listed the top 5 increases by industry groups. Top 5 increases in terms of the labor force increase. Real estate, number 1. Real estate and other business services, number 1. 24,500. Arts, entertainment, recreation, and other services in the number 2 position, 14,800 people. Construction is in 3rd place, 13,300 people. Accommodation and food service activities, moving up to, well, in 4th place, 12,200 people. And wholesale and retail trade, repair of motor vehicles and motorcycles, 6,500 people. So that's the top 5 increases by industry groups. Let's look at the top 5 increases by occupation groups. So in the category called professionals, senior officials, and technicians, 25,800 people. And those are the people, the high end. A lot of those are high end positions. And then next in line, we have the elementary occupations, the basic occupations, 14,500. That's next in line. That's number 2. Number 3 on the list of top 5 increases by occupation groups, the service workers and shop and market sales workers. Their numbers are up 14,400. The clerks, those who work in the offices, etc., 11,300. Their numbers are up by 11,300. And those involved in craft and related trades, so the workers in craft and related trades, their numbers up by 5,800. Thank you so much, Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin, for those numbers. Those are that's the labor force survey numbers published by Statin. They also published the December Consumer Price Index, the CPI, and we're seeing the inflation rate as at December 2021, 0.8%, up by 0.8%. And we're seeing the factors below that: food and non-alcoholic beverages, down minus 0.5%, and transport up. I don't know how it can be up because it says 0.0%. Well, it could be worse, I guess. It could be minus 0.0%, unless that's the thinking. Housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels, up 4.7%. The point-to-point inflation rate, 7.3%. The calendar year-to-date inflation rate, 9.1%. The regional consumer price index percentage change, 1.1% in the Greater Kingston metropolitan area, 0.5% in other urban areas, and 0.8% in rural areas. So looking at the chart here, inflation has been pretty much up and down, up and down. And isn't that the story of life? Up and down. Good days and bad days, good times and bad times. Just before we clear some more messages, let's go to a call which came in about 10 minutes ago from Florida on the WhatsApp line. Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Malcolm. I'll listen to you giving some rundown with the employment rate. Okay, but I think you could explain to me if this is true. Between 1981 and 1989.
Between what?
Between 1981 and 1989.
Uh-huh.
the population was 2.5 million. Is that true?
I wouldn't be surprised if that were so. I would have to glance at the numbers from that time. I would need to take a look at them. But I think you're not too. I don't think you're too far off though, because we had been hearing that Jamaica's population was 2.5 million for quite a number of years.
We have 3 million now, to 4 million.
I don't know about 3 million heading to 4 million. It's
okay. Is it true that the Prime Minister at that time him have more Jamaican, and I'm not talking the government service, but right across Jamaica, you have more Jamaican employed more than any other time?
Yeah, we have had periods of high employment in Jamaica, and if you're talking about
that Prime Minister at the time I'm talking.
I'm responding. We have had.
Am I right?
You want to hear what I'm saying? Hold a moment, please.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
4:30.
Hello, Jamaica. I am Death. Thank you for the great job sending me so many souls. Pedestrians, please continue staring at your phones while on the road, walking on the left when there's no sidewalk, and wearing dark colors at night. You've exceeded my expectations and my quota. Ward off death. Obey the road code. A message from the Road Safety Unit.
Right, I was ¿Qué hora es en español? Son las 4:30. 31. Quelle heure est-il en français? Il est 5h moins 29. 现在几点了？5:29. 29 minutes to, well, it started out at 4:30 and then became 4:31. 29 minutes to 5 o'clock in the afternoon here at Broadcast House 32 Lyndhurst Road, Kingston 5, St. Andrew, Jamaica. Have you done your homework yet? If not, now is a good time. Good afternoon to all the schoolers listening to us, all the students from the early childhood level to the secondary level. Trust you had a productive day of learning today. Hope you also managed to get in some physical activity, just as important as mental activity. As we always say, young people, socialization makes you educable. Education makes you trainable. Training makes you employable. And the right attitude makes you successful. Homework time, young people. And parents and guardians, do you know where your children are? Are they where they're supposed to be? Doing what they're supposed to be doing? It's a good time to check up on the children. A good time for us to continue with more on your program, Both Sides of the Story. Still streaming live on the Gleaners website, go-jamaica.com. Thanks for holding. So what we were saying before the break is that over time, we have had periods of high employment as well as high unemployment. Now, hold on, man. What's the matter with you? What I can remember as a youngster, and because I had to traverse that entire corridor, is that there was a sea of people in the mornings going to work and in the afternoons leaving work. A sea of people, and most of those people worked in the free zone. over that period that you're referring to between 1981 and up to 89 or so. So there a lot of people were employed in the free zone, and there were those who scorned that kind of work for whatever reason. I don't know why people would want to scorn work, but they looked down. There's a tendency for those, when you mention that period of time and the number of people employed, for them to look down on the work that was done, and they talk about all the other things, the conditions of employment, and people have all kinds of things to say. But as I said, I was a youngster, and I traversed that area, and the area I'm referring to, Spanish Town Road, in the vicinity of 3 miles, masses of people in the mornings going to work and coming from work. That was a function of the free zone. Not dissimilar to what we have now with respect to the business process outsourcing sector, or business process sector in Jamaica, the outsourcing business, that there are those people who scorn the youngsters who work at call centers. And I don't get it. This is a legitimate, functional position that they occupy. And I think the number is now more than 43,000, if not 44,000 people, most of them young people, are employed. Now, wouldn't we rather have 43 to 44,000 of our young people working as they are doing now in the business process outsourcing industry than doing what others are doing, some of the misguided young people are doing in this country, especially when it comes to crime? They are the victims of crime, and they're also the perpetrators of crime. And so that's the situation. So that's how I can explain it. I have never really studied the numbers of the period. But what I do know, because I lived during that time, that period, and I know that area very well, the Bell Road Industrial Estate, very, very well.
I used to work there as security at the Kingston Free Zone.
And my mother used to work down on the Bell Road Industrial Estate. She used to work at glass factory, but most of her years were spent at Dervan Corporation, which is in that same belt. It used to be a very productive. No, I was saying it used to be a very productive place. There's still some activity down there, but not what it used to be.
No, it's still down a small amount of people now. But I remember carefully during an election, I won't call him, during election campaign, a politician tell our next one who was responsible for carrying the China to Jamaica at the Kingston Free Zone. Say a cheap labor in bring come. And him ask that same man, where is your dear labor where you bring come, and he couldn't answer. My thing is, once you earn money, nothing wrong with that. No matter what you don't pay your job, you're earning your honest bread.
That's right.
Little I son one time, half a bread better than none.
No, I used to hear my mother say that. Half a loaf better than none. Half a loaf better than none. Mm-hmm. And we have to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. So I don't know where people. Of course, I don't know where people get off scorning. I mean, look at what we have now. We have positions that didn't exist before. No, I keep referring to going to the banks, inside the banks these days, and seeing a designated person monitoring the touch point areas, the areas where people have to interact, for example, with the tellers. And immediately as a teller is through with a customer, a member of the sanitation team or sanitization team moves in and sanitizes that area and moves back to his or her original position and wait to sanitize the next position along the line of where the tellers are. And that is an important job. Sanitation, sanitization, these are important positions. Very important. The sanitation workers, those who have to pick up our garbage, which we are not bagging properly, and causing more problems for them. These are important positions. So,
remember, if there's nobody to pick up the garbage, the place by stinks, so I think people should respect them.
And not only that, we're going to catch all kinds of things because the rats are going to multiply, and then we're going to have leptospirosis and all these other things.
I mean, I don't know what some people think when they come on to a certain job, but
people
have to start from somewhere.
People have a way of scorning, and they keep saying, we need to. It's good that 44,000 people are employed in the BPO sector, but we need to go for the higher end jobs by all means. But it doesn't just happen like that. That's over time, because yes.
Sorry, my brethren one time applied for a job at a security firm as supervisor, and then tell him all we have to have before he get the job. So when he joined the job hard and work himself to be a supervisor, he go back to the same boss and say, you say me have whatever to be a supervisor. And here it is now. He's a supervisor. You know the boss tell him, say, he work himself to the top. So you see, you have to start from somewhere. So that's how it works sometimes.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not always about the qualifications, but your how functional. I keep using the word functionality. How functional and effective are you? What kind of value are you adding to the industry, the enterprise, the business, the company, the corporation that you are a part of? How much value are you adding to the organization, which is important. That's really what it boils down to. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a well-lettered person with 10 million letters behind your name in order to get to a certain position, especially in this day and age. People are looking for those who are creative.
Some of those people with all those political come in, they let clan them and sometimes do a better job than them.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. And we don't want to be setting one group of people against the other, because everybody has a role to play. Every position we'd like to think is important. But no, we just need to. The good thing about checking on any period of the history of Jamaica is that we haven't done a bad job at all at documenting the history. So you can always check with the Planning Institute of Jamaica, for example, the PIOJ. They have tons of publications on every aspect of life in Jamaica. You can always check with the Bank of Jamaica. They have quite a treasure trove of data and facts for every point in the history of Jamaica, in terms of, well, let's just keep it limited to since independence for the time being, right? So people can check. So gone are the days when people could just run up their mouth without you being able to check if it's true or false. The information is out there. All you need to do is to find a credible source, like the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin, like the Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ, like the Bank of Jamaica, BOJ, etc., etc., etc.
And they have all the correct record, boss.
That's right. Because remember, we're a part of a global situation where we have to share our numbers. So we're not just keeping numbers for ourselves. We're feeding into the global database so that we can have the the correct, accurate analysis that is data driven. But we have to ensure that those who are gathering the data and compiling the data have a track record. And we know that Statin has an excellent track record, PIOJ, BOJ in that regard. If you want to know what the dollar was 20 years ago, you can go on BOJ website and they will tell you what the rate of the dollar was at that time, etc. So let's use up these agencies, ministries, agencies, and departments, because after all, they're here to serve us.
Okay, boss. I thank you very much.
Thanks for the call. Take care. This is your program, Both Sides of the Story, Power 106 FM, as we get ready for our final break this afternoon. Goodness, time flies. Let's see who else has joined us since the last time we checked and what messages have come in since the last time we checked. Beverly says, what is your text message? Please, text message number. After all these years, Beverly, you haven't been paying attention. 876-365-3346. 876-365-3346. But I see you have sent it to Messenger as well. Thank you.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
4:45.
How sweet the words of love and peace sound.
¿Qué hora es en español? Son las 5:15. Quelle heure est-il en français? Les 5:15. 现在几点了？5点差15分。15 minutes to 5 o'clock in the afternoon here at Broadcast House, 32 Lyndhurst Road, Kingston 5, St. Andrew, Jamaica. Good afternoon to all working Jamaicans tuned in to both sides of the story here on Power 106 FM. It's a good time for us to ask ourselves, how productive have we been today? How productive have we been today? Let's greet some of the other listeners who have joined us. Quite a few messages. Richard Oldacre says, good evening. Good afternoon, Richard. Listening in Decoy, St. Mary. Welcome, Richard Oldacre in Decoy, St. Mary. He's asking, do we have any documents saying the Queen gave Jamaica to the Jamaican people? The country's leaders at the time got together in the name of independence and negotiated the independence of Jamaica. And let me see. Richard Oldacre says she is no ceremonial head of state. She is the owner of Jamaica. Well, you're entitled to your opinion, Richard Oldacre, but not to your own facts. Thank you for your message. And Richard Oldacre again says, from 1962 till now, the ceremonial head of state never attended any of our independence ceremonies. Well, she sent a representative, I believe, back in 1962. Natalie Winter says, hi, good afternoon all. Big up all bank staff, i.e. BNS, NCB, and CIBC. Good afternoon, Dervan. Loving, lovely. Keep it up. All right, Natalie. Looks as if you got a check from all those three banks. BNS, NCB, and CIBC. She says, Dervan, people need housing, so real estate will always be a very fruitful market. Every man wants their own castle. Oh, don't we? Yes, we do. Natalie also says, labor market people must strive to be their own boss and strive to rule their own destiny. And she goes on to say, anyone can say that they are professional, but what they really mean. This woman really thinks people just come here. I wonder who's that now? Some people I know very well must learn to sort out their family life before you talk out. Before you talk out, you are professional. Get a life, seriously. In Jamaican parlance, we would ask, is who trouble Natalie Winter? But I don't know. What do I call it now? Dropping words or throwing words? Is that a Jamaican thing? Don't know who she's talking about. So, Jurian Thomas asks, how are you, Sir Malcolm? I'm fine, thanks, Jurian. And you? She says they need to pay sanitation department more. Here in the States, that is a well-paid job. You are perfectly right, Jurian. The business, what we see as garbage collection, is referred to as sanitation or waste management or all of these things. And the people who drive, especially the ones who work solo, I've seen them at work, both in Birmingham in England and also in Miami, Florida. One person on the truck, one person, the driver and the operator of the truck. And the people within these communities know when to put out their waste, and their waste bins are color coded, so it's particular items. So kitchen waste, for example, you know, the cuttings when you peel your food and the meat and that kind of thing. There's one container for that. There's a separation, plastic, in terms of plastic bottles, etc., etc. And the truck drives along the roadway within the community and gets to the vicinity of where the waste bins are, and two mechanical arms extend from the truck and clamp onto the bin, and then rotates a bit, moves it around, and empties the bin in the truck, and then replaces the bin. I have seen it with my own two eyes a few times in England and in the United States of America. That's how they do it. And they are well paid, as Jurian is confirming. More money. It's like the truck drivers in America. They are very well paid. You're talking 12 million Jamaican dollars a year. And that's at the what they call it, the beginners level. For starters, 12 million Jamaican dollars. I got that bit of information from a story I was watching on, was it ABC or NBC, one of those. And because of the technology these days, you can rewind and replay a digital video recording system. So I did that and made a note of those numbers. Some serious money that the truck drivers get. After all, they're driving on all kinds of surfaces. Can you imagine moving from snow to rain or rain to whatever, all over the country, risking their lives? How many times have we seen these massive pileups of vehicles, crashes and collisions, especially in wintertime? Serious business. So they must be well paid, like the sanitation workers. In fact, we recall that before, some years ago, they weren't even wearing proper protective gear. They weren't. And I remember when, was it Kirkwright who did the story about the construction workers on Mandela, the fact that Mandela Highway, the fact that they were wearing slippers on the job instead of shoes that could protect them and whatever. And they at the time, it seemed they were saying the company, check, should provide the workers with the appropriate gear. And at the time, I remember saying on radio in response to that, how it is that all of a sudden we're concerned about the workers on the construction site. Have we ever taken a look at the workers in the sanitation area, those who work with the work, pick up the waste around the country, not least of all the corporate area. They're not wearing gloves. They're not wearing special shoes. They're not wearing special overalls. I remember saying all of that. And sometimes subsequent to that, I'm not saying I'm the one why they did it, but subsequent to that, I don't remember how much time passed, but subsequent to that, the National Solid Waste Management Authority started outfitting their sanitation workers with protective gear. Yeah, I remember that distinctly. Julian Thomas says the government provides the proper trash can for different pickups. Absolutely, because you have different days as well. You have one truck in some instances that does the pickup for all the plastic or all the household waste on a particular day, and on another day, it's another kind of waste that is picked up. You're perfectly right, Julian. Natalie Winter says, hi, goodbye, Dervan. Keep safe and warm. Nice weather. Remember COVID-19 restrictions. Keep indoors. Remember the children, seniors, and pedestrians, also the animals. Bye all. Bye-bye, Natalie Winter. And Julian Thomas says, we also respect our sanitation team here. In some cases, neighbors would give them refreshments or meals. Yeah, well, in our case, I think it's once a year at Christmas time. Well, it's the postmen usually. Yeah, the postmen. They are the ones who usually come around with the envelope for us to put a little something in it. Not sure the sanitation. I don't remember the sanitation workers doing that. But yes, people who have to work in those hazardous conditions. Because who knows? You can pick up all kinds of things if you're handling garbage, you know. And God forbid that you pick up that thing that is going to cause you to get sick. We must take care of our sanitation workers. And hello to our street sweepers. There are a couple of them. You know, I've had to pass early in the mornings, and you see them. Invariably, they're accompanied by their children or a child, at least one child sometimes out there in the early mornings with them. And I think when children like those, when they see how hard their parents and guardians have to work by being there with them, watching their mother, it's usually the women, most of the women we have seen, but they have males who are responsible for keeping the streets clean as well. When you see your parents having to do that, it should really motivate you to want more for yourself and ultimately sometime down the road to be able to do more for your parents and guardians. And invariably, that's how we operate. Once we make it, or we get to a point, when I say we make it, once we get to a point where we can more than help ourselves, we can help, and even without being able to help ourselves, out of whatever little we have, we try to help our parents and guardians, those who have invested in us over the years. And it's a Jamaican thing. You want to buy, how many times have you heard them, the DJs singing about buy a house for mama and mama will love you and remember when this and that and so on. There are some things that we really should cherish, that kind of attitude of looking after your parents and guardians, that kind of attitude of looking out for each other, looking out for the children and taking care of the children, etc. There are some things that, well, another time we'll touch on those because we're almost out of time. Can we thank you once again for the privilege of serving you on yet another edition of your program, Both Sides of the Story, for today. Yes, Booker T last, saying in the countries you mentioned, government revenue is high. You're right. Here in Jamaica, half of our economy is underground. And so you only have half of the population paying their fair share in terms of taxes. Yes, thanks once again for the privilege of serving you on yet another edition of your program, Both Sides of the Story, for today, Monday, the 17th of January, 2022. The moving finger writes, and having writ moves on, nor all your piety nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all your tears wash out a word of it. All things being well, both sides of the story returns tomorrow afternoon, 2 to 5. Till then, this is Dervan Malcolm reminding all of us that every day is an opportunity to do better than yesterday. Take care.
I have a dream that someway for our children this will be a better land. Now maybe you can't see my need, you can't see my dream, but I'm sure someday you'll understand. If you all we'll get it together. And we'll oh, my dream come true for me and for you. Dream the impossible dream.
You're listening to Power 106 FM. The time is now
5 o'clock.
News, comprehensive, powerful, and credible. Power 106 FM.